title significant, and we have placed some people as insignificant because they don't fall under the heading of a title. But the truth is that God has revealed himself so uniquely to you that nobody can imitate it or duplicate it. Because if he leaves himself outside of my sensual perception, then he does not mind being misunderstood. I wish I could talk to you about that. Many times we have all been flabbergasted at the way God operates. And I don't know how you feel, but I have felt like I would like to have a one-on-one with God. I would like not to go by what I believe and what I have conceived, because I have even to interpret my own revelation. But I wish I could take away interpretation and move out revelation and bring him into the perception of my senses. I wish I could have an appointment where we just sat down and we talked, so he could tell me face to face what's going on. When I expected this, I got that. And when I expected that, I got this. So he has to allow me the uniqueness of my view of him that cannot be imitated or duplicated by anybody else. And so I conclude that you have a concept of God that I can't have, and I have a concept of God that you can't have. That's why we fellowship, because I need you with a piece of my puzzle, and you need me with a piece of your puzzle. This thing turns the situation all the way around, because it now says that one preacher is no better than the other, and another saint is no deeper than the other, because your revelation of God is not my revelation of God. And in the same way that pain is individuate, I could lose my father, you could lose your father, but this pain is not the same. And that's why people can tell you that your revelation is insignificant, because where were you and your revelation when I needed something unique for my own circumstance? All right, as long as you know I'm here. It's an important piece now, because you can be around Jesus and find that there are going to be a plethora of different attitudes and conflicting dispositions. It does not necessarily mean that one person is wrong and the other is right. It simply means this is the revelatory plane that I operate on with God, and that is the revelatory plane that you operate on with God. Now I can understand why Peter can say that Paul utters things that are hard to understand, because that's not your revelation, and that's not where God took you. And the wonderful thing about it is when you can come down off your high denominational horse and realize that somebody else has a concept of God that you need to hear, and instead of closing your mind, you ought to open it up to receive what the Lord has to say to the churches. I feel something helping me. If you notice then the passion, and this is where the text is, it is studied with contrast. You've got the will of Jesus as opposed to the will of the religious leaders. And one of our great problems as leaders in a religious matrix is we want to clone everybody. Now you may shakabahaya and I may glory be to God, but whatever your tongue is, I ain't got to have your tongues to have a relationship with God. And so you will understand then that the will of one group is separate from the will of Christ. You will also see that there is a difference between the blasé, yes, laissez-faire attitude of the disciples in the text and the intense disposition of the woman anointing his feet. You can see because church folk, and I don't talk about church people because I'm one of them, but church people, his little church, never looked good in the scriptures. The disciples always look bad. You're holding out on me. I know you sanctified, but let me tell you what church folk do. The disciples didn't want Jesus to talk with the woman at the well. They didn't want it because it was not kosher for them to talk to the woman at the well. They didn't want him to go to Zacchaeus' house because Zacchaeus represented collaboration with the Romans because he was a tax collector. Now, they didn't want the Syrophoenician woman to keep messing up their service because she kept hollering, "Jesus, thou son of David, have mercy on me." So the disciples said, "Send her away because she troubleth us." Don't you ever get so caught up in your narcissistic, egomaniacal Christian self to believe that somebody came to church to see you. Sometimes we are so cold towards people that they must be desperate if they can come up in our cold churches looking for a blessing from the Lord. The woman with the issue of blood tried to sneak in and get a touch and sneak out. But it was Jesus who said, "Who touched me?" And he exposed her because she had to answer. It was Jesus who said to his disciples, "Suffer the little children to come unto me," because they was keeping the young people and their rap music from coming to Jesus. Everybody has a standard to keep everybody else out. It was the same people who could not heal the man's son when Jesus was up on the Mount of Transfiguration. It was the same group that wanted to keep their little fishes and few loaves and would have sent the 4,000 and the 5,000 home hungry without sensitivity to the derelict in the street and without sensitivity to the person who has been looking for a job for 4 years but just hasn't found one and is in need of some sanctified money to help them for a little while. I wish I could talk to church folk for a while.